If you've been in the wellness space at all, if you've talked about metabolism and how the body works, if you've listened at all to any of the pundits that are out there, if you've read any books, if you've seen any magazines, then you've probably heard about fasting. And you've probably heard mixed messages. Fasting is great. It's the best thing since sliced bread. It solves all the problems. Or fasting is terrible. Fasting doesn't work. Fasting is dangerous. And the question is, what is the real truth? And here I'm going to be talking about the question, is fasting dangerous? The truth about it. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, we're living a limitless life. We are living based on the person that we've created, this person that we have talked about, this person that we are building, the person that has unlimited potential. We are breaking free from all those barriers. We are presenting our best selves, our best health, and our best journey for the future. Hey, if you're new to me, go ahead and put new in the comments because I'd love to welcome you and say hello with a hand clap. And let you know that I'm excited that you are here. If you do have questions, go ahead and put those in the comments so that we can get to those as we move throughout our show tonight. Whatever platform you're on right now, I am excited that you're here. Welcome. You should be seeing us on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Twitch, on Facebook, and of course here on YouTube. If you see somebody, if you think you should see somebody that's not out there right now, let them know that we are here and that we are excited to be in this space right now. So thank you for coming through. As you know how we do, I've got my monitors that we're going to be looking at here in just a minute. I've got my glucose meter. I've got my continuous monitors that will show. And then we will say hello to all of you who are out there to welcome you to this space. So let's go ahead and hop over and so you can see what I'm talking about. So right below, well, off to the side, you'll see here, this is my clarity. Let's see, where's this? All right, so it looks like my screens are off a little bit. Let's make a change there really quickly, and we'll be there. We go. All right. Don't you love this? Okay, there we are. All right, so right down below, you'll see this is my Dexcom Clarity Report, and then off to my side, this is my Keto Mojo and my Contour. As you know, I wear two different glucose meters, continuous monitors. I've got a Dexcom Clarity on one side. This is a, not Clarity, but Dexcom G7. And then I've got a Freestyle Libre on the other arm. And we'll take a look at those here in just a minute to see what's going on with them. And also, right now, I am in the first parts of our fast for this week. As you know, on a weekly basis, I do a 72-hour fast. And right now, I am 25 hours. That's right, 25 hours into this week's fast. We're heading to 72. So we'll talk also about how I'm feeling, all the symptoms, if there are any symptoms that I'm having right now, doing pretty good. So we'll talk about that. And then also, as I mentioned, we'll talk about what is going on with fasting. What are the benefits of fasting? What are some possible things that we need to be concerned about with fasting? Because it is an amazing tool that we're using, but we want to make sure that we are doing so safely. Okay, so let's hop over and let's say hello. I think I see some community members out there. I see Gian. Hey, Gian, how are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. And if you are out on Instagram, thank you for being there as well. So let's go ahead and let me grab some of these, grab this comment. And there you are. All right. So Gian is saying hi, everybody, and says hi, doctor. Happy to see you again. I plan a 24-hour fast, is what Gian is saying. Yeah, yeah. So I'm excited about that. And then Steve hopping in and saying hello. Hey, Steve, how you doing? Glad that you are here as well. Glad that all of our community members are here. If you, let's do that. There we are. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about where I am. So the question that a lot of people ask is, why are we doing what we're doing? So let me go ahead and give you some backdrop. So diabetes is one of those metabolic diseases that we talk about all the time. 37 million people in the United States. There are over 1 billion people on the planet that suffer from diabetes or pre-diabetes. 563 actually have diabetes, and the rest are pre-diabetes. That is blood sugars that are higher than normal, but not high enough to be considered diabetic, okay? And so the reason that we are in this space, the reason that we're talking about this, is we are working to reverse our diabetes. And in the process of walking down the path of reversing diabetes, we are learning tools along the way. One of the most powerful tools that is available, that's out there, that people talk about, that people are using and seeing tremendous benefits, is fasting. And so on our Dwain Woode MD Live, as we walk through the path on Monday night, so you catch us Monday, 7 p.m. Central, we're walking down the path of reversing diabetes. On our check-ins, we are talking about some of the tools that we use in the process of achieving that goal. And one of those tools is the tool of fasting. Now, you're watching me and you're just about to switch off and you're just about to scroll by or you're just about to move on. But let me tell you, don't do that yet. Because you're saying in your head and you're thinking to yourself, I don't have diabetes, so this is not for me. Well, diabetes is a prototypic disease. What does that mean? It means that it has components of all those other disease processes that we talk about. So that if we are able to manage, if we're able to treat, if we're able to reverse diabetes, then those same tools can be applied to other things. Right? And you'll hear me talk about that as I talk about fasting, because fasting is one of the most powerful tools in reversing a lot of the metabolic diseases that we talk about, those chronic illnesses. Also, if you've not done so, our show that we did this past week on Dwain Woode MD Live was all about demystifying metabolism. It's a word that we throw around. It's a word that people use. And so we did a good job of setting the tone for what metabolism is and why metabolism is so important in trying to set ourselves up for success in terms of our health. Okay? So metabolism is the place that we need to make a dent. That's where we need to make big improvements so that we can improve all of the downstream diseases: diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, polycystic ovarian syndrome, fatty liver, even some cancers. So all of those are within that metabolic milieu, if you will. And if we can make a dent, if we can correct, if we can right our metabolism, then all of those downstream diseases improve. And so the reason that it's important for you to also listen to this is you may not have diabetes. You may have pre-diabetes. Your doctor may have told you that you're right on the verge of diabetes. Your A1C is 6.4, which is pre-diabetic. 6.5 is considered diabetes. So that's just a tenth of a point away from diabetes. And so the things that you do, the things that we do, the things that we talk about for diabetes also helps those people with pre-diabetes. If we are able to treat the metabolism, if we're able to right the metabolism, then we get weight loss, which is a big part of metabolism. If we are able to right our metabolic system, then we also have better fatty liver. We have lower blood pressure. We have lower cholesterol, and we have lower incidents or complications from polycystic ovarian syndrome. Okay, so that's the backdrop, and so fasting is what we've been using. One of the tools, let me say that again, one of the tools that we've been using as we are moving into this space and as we're setting ourselves up for success when it comes to our health. All right, and so as I do on a weekly basis when I do my 72-hour fast and we are in this space, I'm going to do a mini check-in. So the check-in really is to help us see how I'm feeling, talk about some of those problem areas that people may find themselves in. We do a complete review of fasting on Fridays, so come back this Friday as we get to the end of our 72-hour, where we go through how to prepare for a fast, how to get through a fast successfully, and then of course how to break the fast. Here in this space, we're talking about what are some of the things that we need to consider as we are approaching fasting. If you're new to fasting and you're interested, this is a good space for you to be in. But let's go ahead and let's talk about those three areas. And there are three specific areas that people will have issues with, and they are how they're doing physically, mentally, and emotionally. Physically, mentally, and emotionally. The physical is huge, and you'll hear me say several times today, you'll hear me say on my show, if you've been following me, if you've been watching, you hear me say that fasting is not just about not eating. I'm gonna pause there. So fasting is not just about not eating. Fasting involves your emotions, it involves your thought process, it involves your community, it involves your family, your friends. So fasting is a big undertaking for some people because they didn't anticipate that it would be so encompassing. Okay, so let me say that again. Fasting can seem daunting to a lot of people because they think all you got to do is not eat. Well, that is what you're doing, but remember there are hormonal changes. There are scheduling issues that you may have to get through and pan out and sort through. There are thought processes that happen, right? So as you're fasting, as you're moving through the pace, and we'll come when I talk about mentation, as you're moving through fasting, there are things that are going to come up, right? Thoughts that are going to come up. Oh man, mom is eating this, or mom is cooking that, or when we move through holidays or birthdays, if you are not doing a fast at the right time, then your brain, your mind can play a lot of tricks on you. But back to physical. So the place that people tend to have difficulty is how they are feeling in terms of energy. So during the fast, your energy levels, of course, go down. The amount of sugar, I guess let me say that, the glucose in your body goes down, and people feel that as a drop in energy. If you're doing one of the extended fastings, then as your body is transitioning from burning carbohydrates to burning fats, then of course that also can feel like a drop in energy. Okay? And so we talk about how to kind of get through that and prepare. So, but physically right now, I am actually feeling good. I've been resting. I've been getting good sleep over the last couple of days. And so I'm not feeling as though I'm sluggish or tired or exhausted or hitting that wall like a lot of people will say if they are thinking about fasting when they're not well prepared. Okay, I'm not feeling lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty. Those are things that come as well if you're not well hydrated. I'm not feeling palpitations, feeling like the heart's racing or skipping a beat. Another place where hydration comes into play. Okay, so physically doing well. Mentally, lots of things going on for me right now. Of course, we've got this space that I'm in. We've got our 100-day walk to consistency that's going on in the morning at 6 o'clock every morning. We've got the practice. We've got some other things that we've got planned. And then, of course, it's that time of the year when there are a lot of meetings and talking about what the rest of the year is going to look like. So there are a lot of things going on. And I find that I am able to keep up with a lot of it. Of course, it's very busy, and so I would definitely be feeling challenged with all the things going on if I were not well rested. But right now, mentally, I think I'm feeling clear. I'm feeling not as though I'm walking through, or I'm not in a bubble, as some people will say. So yeah, and then as you rest, remember that also has a big part to play in how your thought process goes. Because when you're tired, right? It's hard to think. I've been in this space before, trying to do something, trying to create, trying to do a video, or trying to put a talk together, and I keep having to go in over and over and over because I'm not rested. And so you know how that is when you're not well rested. Okay, so physically, mentally, and then emotionally. The emotional part of fasting is very intense if there are lots of stressful things going on in your environment. Because remember, during fasting, hormones are changing, cortisol levels go up initially, your body is using up sugar, so sugar is going down. When sugar goes down, then we have a drop in insulin. When insulin goes down, then glucagon comes out. And so there are all these things that are changing in your body, and your hunger hormone, your satiety hormone, can all be playing a part in how you're feeling. And so being sure that you are mentally, emotionally, physically prepared for that is very important. I've got some exciting things going on this week, so I'm actually pumped. And of course, I'm also pumped to be in this space with you. Okay, so those are all of the places where we sometimes can have challenging, and right now in all three of those, I'm feeling pretty good. I have to say, let me back up for a minute. I may feel a bit of fatigue, right, because I've been just going and going and going this week so far. But in terms of fasting at 25 hours, I don't know that I'm feeling that part of fasting. Now, one of the things that I've noticed, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit when I get to my blood sugars, what I've noticed is, because I am just coming off of an illness about 2-3 weeks ago, and it is still I still feel some of the side effects of that physically, and so maybe a little fatigue, and definitely my blood sugars have been higher as a result of that. I think one of our community members a couple of weeks ago was talking about being ill and seeing those blood sugars go up, and it's been, even though I understand what's going on, it's been a little frustrating for me as I watch that as well. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at blood sugars now. So we've talked about, we've done our check-in where I am. And so what I want to do is I want to go ahead and talk about what my blood sugars are. And to do that, we're going to hop over and take a look at what my glucose meters are showing. And right now, as I mentioned, I have on both the Dexcom G, and I also have on a Freestyle Libre. And so my Libre is what you're seeing right now, says that my blood sugar is 89. 89 is what you're seeing. And if you see down near, let's see, where's it? This way. Okay, over here. Yeah, so right. Okay, so I've got to right there. See, right about here, right in the middle. You'll see that white line. That is my blood sugar, and you'll see over the course of the day that it's gone down to what it is now. It was riding right at about 130, 140. When I'm fasting, usually at about 24 hours, which is where I am now, I am well below 100, and I would have been below 100 earlier in the day. We'll take a look here. Let's take a look at my Dexcom G7, and you'll see there, and this one I can actually put my finger and you can see what the actual blood sugars are. So back here, 9 p.m. last night, right, we were 150s, right, because we finished eating, and blood sugars went down. Look at that. So dropping, 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 dropping. And right about 4:30 this morning, got down to 113. And then I woke up. I got out of bed. I didn't use the toothpaste that, that spiked up my blood sugar. But look at this. Look at what happened. So blood sugar up, 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 up. And I think it got up to 160. Was that? Yeah, 164. Right? And that is about 20 or 30 points higher than it would have been prior to me getting sick. Okay? And then, of course, through the rest of the day, blood sugars are dropping, dropping, dropping. And I don't think, let me see. I don't think it has gone, okay, right there. It went below 100 right at about 9 p.m. So that's right at 25 hours of fasting, right? So for the first time, it went below 100. And that is unusual for my blood sugars. During fasting. Let me say that. During fasting. Okay? All right. So let me do something here. I want to say hi to some folks. I do see. Let me get back here. So we said hello to Steve, and let's get back to this one. Here we go. So Gion said she was planning to do a 24-hour fast. Steve says, I do my blood work in the morning. Oh, good, Steve. So it'll be interesting to hear from you how that goes. Okay. Gion says mental is most challenging part of fasting. A lot of people, that is where they find their challenge, right? So it's not really that their body is telling them they're hungry, but the mental part of it is a big deal. So I'm going to star that, Gion, because I want to come back to that. Gion, like Dr. Woode says, if you're doing something, it takes your mind off. Steve, look at that. I need to have you come on and do this show, Steve. I love that. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for jumping in. And Gion is asking a question there. So Gion, I'm going to star that question. I'm going to come back to that. That was something we talked about on our show on Monday. And Gion is saying, I think so, Steve. I have to keep busy when I want to last. Yes, so we'll come back and talk more about that. And then Cornelia, hey Cornelia, how are you? Cornelia is saying hello, Dr. Woode. And so for those of you who are out there, if you see the star that is next to Gion, and those are people who are members of our community. Oops, what did I just do? Yeah. Those are people who are members of our community, and you see star next to Cornelia as well. They are members of our YouTube community, our Dwain Woode MD community. And I don't know if Cornelia, was it you or Autumn yesterday was giving us a name, the Wood Group or something like that. All right, so let's see. So Cornelia is saying hello to Steve and to Gion. Steve is saying hello. Gion says, great, doctor. I am happy you're below 100. I'm excited I'm below 100 as well. Because that was a little frustrating today. Because my monitor kept going off because I have it set at 150 and it got up to 150 and I was like, well, this doesn't make any sense. And well, I shouldn't say it doesn't make any sense. I have noticed over the last several days that has been the case. So I knew what was going on. Okay. All right. So where was I? Yes. So we were just about to take a look at my monitor. So let's go ahead and do that. So you'll see here, so that's my Dexcom. And let's go ahead and grab these guys. So here is, let me change my view. There we go. So here's my Keto Mojo. Here is my Contour. And let's take a look at what those are. So let's grab a strip. So this is my Contour. We'll get a test strip in there. And of course, these are, the Keto Mojo will give me both a blood sugar and it also gives me ketones. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to open up the glucose strip, get that one in there. And I'm going to go ahead and open up, as you know, the ketone strip as well, because if I don't, then it takes some time sometimes to get it open. And if I'm not careful, that drop of blood will dry up and I won't be able to get that. So let's go ahead and do that. And then let's go ahead and get into our container and get one of our handy dandy lancets. Back over here. And this is just one of the twist off. So you twist off the top, find a finger. And I tend to just use the lancet itself. I don't use a lancing device. We'll come back and maybe show you that another time. We've shown this on the show before, but this lancet actually goes into a device and it's spring loaded. So I'm going to find a finger. I tend to use the same one because it doesn't hurt as much. Of course, as soon as I said that, I'm like, that does hurt. All right. Okay. And that was a very brisk flow of blood. So I know that I did a good job there. And it hurt. So, all right. So we got those two going. So the the Contour says I'm 98. The Keto Mojo says I am 108. And of course, you see on the screen there, that's the Libre. So let me go ahead and I'm going to switch this out so I can get this one in, and this is the ketone. So at 25 hours, 25 plus hours, 25 and a half, right? What do you think my ketones are going to be? Go ahead and drop that in the chat. Drop that in the comment. Give me a guess. What do you think it's going to be? So we'll get that started. And of course, I'm not going to show you what it is because I don't want to show it to you yet. But that's okay. So we're going to hop over. So let's go ahead and let's talk about this concept of fasting. And let's see, Cornelia says she thinks it was she said that must have been Autumn who was naming the group. Okay. And Steve has a guess, so we're going to put that up now. So Steve says he thinks that my ketones are going to be 0.8 at 29 hours. So go ahead and drop those in. We'll come back and we'll put those up here in a little while as we get into looking at that. Okay. Okay. So just as I was getting ready to do that, I'm going to cut back over because I see someone else who just popped in. And so it is Autumn, and Autumn says, "Hi, Dr." He said, "Wood Gang." Yeah, so we were just talking about you, Autumn. So welcome in. And let's see, Gian, I thought I saw she dropped a comment in there. Okay, so Gian says she thinks that my ketones are going to be 1.8. And then, of course, saying hi to Autumn. Awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and let's have a conversation. So fasting has had a kind of rocky history. We all know that fasting comes from, I'm going to say, ancient times, right? So back in the past, there were cultural, there were religious reasons for fasting. And as we've moved into the modern era, fasting is now being proposed as a huge tool for managing metabolic disease and for just wellness, general wellness. Okay, when fasting first came on the scenes as a method for health, it was poo-pooed. In fact, one of the, I don't want to call him the godfather, but one of the original people who were talking about fasting was Jason Fung. And you can go out and read his book, several books actually, and any one of them would be great. But he started talking about fasting, and everybody kind of said, no, this is not a thing. We can't do that. It shouldn't be done. Fasting is dangerous. Flash forward now years, right? So this is probably in the 90s, and don't quote me on the time, but not in the 2000, not in 2025, but earlier. fasting was thought to be not this thing that people should do, because we were so used to eating so often that the concept of fasting just seemed foreign. And so it was like, no, we can't fast. We shouldn't fast. Fasting is dangerous. One of the other places where that comes into play, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute, was when we started talking about diabetics, type 1 diabetics, who are insulin requiring. They were told, or we told them, that they can't fast, because if they fasted, then their blood sugars would go down. And if their blood sugars go down, then they wouldn't take insulin, and they're insulin requiring. And so we told them, hey, it's dangerous for you to fast. So no. Now, what's happened is we've taken that concept of type 1 people not being able to fast, and we've extrapolated that into type 2s and say, okay, nobody, if you're diabetic at all, you shouldn't fast. Now we are learning, and as fasting has become more mainstream, and there are a lot more studies that have been done about it, then some of the things that we tell people in terms of fasting, we've kind of backed off on those. Okay, but back in April or March of 2024, the American Heart Association at one of their meetings had a paper that was published, and the paper suggested that people who fasted were at increased risk for heart disease and for death. Okay, and so then people started looking at various fasting methods and saying, hey, what's going on? If we're at increased risk for death, then we're not going to fast. And so a lot of articles have been written in the lay media. So Newsweek and Time and some of those places have had articles on fasting. In fact, one of the, and I don't have a copy of it, one of the little Time flyers, not flyer, but it was an issue dedicated to fasting, and it had time on it. I don't know that it was necessarily one of their magazines, but it was something that was produced for the diabetes space. And the question was, is fasting beneficial? Okay. And so we want to spend some time right now talking about the question, is fasting dangerous? Is fasting dangerous? And before we can talk about is fasting dangerous, then we want to make sure that we understand what fasting is. Because there are some misconceptions about what fasting is. Fasting is not, well, let me back up. Let me come at it the other way. Fasting is voluntary abstinence from food. And in this space, we are talking about abstaining from calorie-containing food or calorie-containing things that we eat, substances. Okay, you've seen me drink, right? So in my mug, I have artificially sweetened tea. That's what I'm using. I drink water. So when we're fasting here, we're fasting from calories. We're fasting from eating, but we are making sure that we're maintaining hydration. Okay? So fasting is the voluntary abstinence from calorie-containing substances here in this space. Now, at my church, my pastor says when we are fasting, he said fasting is not us taking stuff away, but fasting is replacing. Right? Because a lot of times when we think about fasting, it's like, oh man, they're going to take away my food, they're going to take away my this, they're going to take away my that. And as we go through that process, our brain begins to have some dissonance, right? Some friction. Because it says, no, I don't want to take away. I don't want to give up. I don't want to give up. And so we set ourselves up initially, when we think that way, we set ourselves up for difficulty. So fasting is the voluntary abstinence from food. one of the things that people say to me all the time when they find out I'm fasting, it says, why are you starving yourself? And so I want to make a distinction between fasting and starving. Fasting is the voluntary abstinence from food. It is done in a controlled manner. It is done with health and safety in mind. Starvation, on the other hand, is not voluntary. And starvation can be detrimental, can be difficult, can have adverse effects in the body. Okay, so I want to make sure that we understand the distinction between fasting and starvation. Okay, it is voluntary. Common practices that people do when they're fasting, and this gets into more of the details of fasting. So intermittent fasting is a time of eating followed by a time of fasting, followed by a time of eating, followed by a time of fasting. So that is what the term intermittent fasting is. Okay, so periods of alternating fasting and eating, fasting and eating. Now, we've traditionally thought about intermittent fasting as within a day, you're doing, 16 and 8 or 12 or 12 or, 18 and 4, whatever my math just went there. But you get the idea. But even when we're doing extended fastings, those are periods of fasting followed by periods of eating. So technically, that is also an intermittent fasting. We don't call it that, where we call it an extended fast. But those can also be considered as intermittent fasting. Okay? So extended fast, like I said, are fasting periods where it's greater than 24 hours. And so within the spectrum of fasting, intermittent fasting, and extended fasting, there are a whole host of other types of fasts. So there is the 1 meal a day fasting, or OMAD. There is 24-hour fast. There is alternate day fasting, where you're fasting every other day. There is a 5 and 2, where you do where you either fast 5 days and then you take a break for 2 days and you come back and you fast, right? So you can do lots of different methods of fasting. We've done shows where we talk about the various methods and what they do. So make sure you go out on the YouTube channel, and they're there in the list that's called How to Fast Successfully. Okay? So that is fasting. Lots of different ways of doing it, and studies have shown that there are benefits to some types of fasting for some types of diseases, right? So they're linked like that. So what are the benefits? What are potential benefits of fasting? Well, we've talked about several benefits, right? So some of the big benefits. So coming off of we're going to come to diabetes, but one of the big benefits of fasting is weight loss. Fasting can lead to reduced calorie intake, promoting loss and decrease of body fat, right? This is huge. So here's a great place to pause and talk about the difference between fasting and calorie restriction, simple calorie restriction. When I am restricting calories, I am still eating, but I've cut back on the amount of calories I'm giving the body. That's what restricted calories mean. In that process, the body is smart enough to know that, hey, you've cut back on how much you're giving me, so I can't expend as much, right? So if you're giving me less, like if we're working, right, we live in a house, and you get $100 come in, and you pay $100 worth of whatever, groceries or whatever bills you have. Well, if you get less, now you get $90, you can't keep spending $100. So what should happen is you cut back on the expenses, right? Or you get another job. Basic idea. The body is the same way. So if I am taking in less calories, then the body then says, I can't burn as much. And that results, and that is seen as a decrease in the metabolic rate, a decrease in your metabolism. So metabolism slows down when we restrict calories. If you find someone who's actually starving, and you check their metabolism is really, really, really slow because the calories coming in have been cut. That's different from fasting, because in fasting, what we're doing is we're not just cutting calories, we're turning calories off. When you fast, you're not putting anything in. And so the body at that point doesn't slow down the calories. It says, I've got to go find calories. Notice the difference in thought process for the body. In one case, it says, hey, I'm still getting stuff coming through. I just need to slow down a little bit to match what they're giving me. But if I'm not putting any calories in at all, the body says, hey, I'm not getting anything at all. I'm not getting any money. Right? So the job is gone. I still got these bills. The job is gone. So what do I need to do? Now I need to go and find energy. And so during that process, the body's metabolism actually ramps up to be able to get ready to find the energy. And that concept is so important if we're going to understand the difference between simply cutting calories and fasting. Because people say all the time, well, oh yeah, you're just cutting back on what you're eating. Well, no, there are other metabolic and hormonal things that are going on that makes fasting different from just cutting back on calories. Okay? So number one, fasting promotes weight loss. It's a huge one. Fasting improves metabolic health. So fasting improves metabolic health. And what did we say was the culprit in metabolic health? It is insulin. Insulin is the major driving force behind a lot of our metabolic diseases. And so when we fast, we become more insulin sensitive. What does that mean? That means that the insulin that our body has becomes more effective. And if it becomes more effective, then the body doesn't have to create more insulin, or we don't have to take as much insulin from outside. So this is why a lot of people who are fasting find that they are able to decrease the amount of insulin, and in some cases get off the insulin that they're on. Okay? So this leads to better blood sugar control. And I said we're coming back to diabetes in a minute. So yeah, here it is. So if I have better insulin sensitivity, then the insulin that I have in my body, or the insulin I'm taking from outside, which I now have to decrease, also works better. So my blood sugars are better. Okay? And then one of the other big things is cellular repair. So during fasting, the body goes into this process called autophagy, which is a repair recycling process that's in the body. And this helps to promote healing. It helps to promote the fixing, the patching, if you will, of damaged cells. The body removes unused, broken, misshapen, irregular cells so that it can send those off and recycle them, bring them back as new, improved parts of itself. And that sets us up for improvement in cellular repair. This is a great place where we talk about things like improved neuropathy. We talk about people who have multiple sclerosis or Alzheimer's disease, some of those neurodegenerative diseases, where they can get better because during the fasting process, there is cellular repair going on. Okay? And then reduced inflammation. So taking that same idea of cellular repair and the idea that we're becoming more insulin sensitive. A lot of our illnesses, a lot of the things that we have that are going on in our metabolic disease process, things that are going on in high blood pressure, high cholesterol, those chronic illnesses, a lot of it has to do with inflammation. So there are studies that show that fasting can decrease those markers of inflammation and potentially lower the risk of chronic disease. Because a lot of chronic disease has to do with inflammation. In fact, diabetes itself, right? Because the blood sugars are high, those blood sugars produce inflammatory markers, inflammatory substances in the body that makes the body more insulin resistant. So an amazing thing. Okay, and then, so what are some of the potential risks? What are some of the potential risks? So we've talked about the benefits. Everybody talks about the benefits. So what are some potential risks of fasting? Well, one of the big ones that people talk about is nutritional deficiencies. Nutritional deficiencies. Because often when we are thinking about fasting, we're going through fasting, when we're doing intermittent fasting, when we're thinking about becoming healthy, a lot of us, what we do is we restrict certain things. We restrict ourselves. And so particularly as we get into some of the longer fasts, if we're not doing a good job of planning what we're going to eat, if we're not doing a good job of making sure that we're eating balanced meals, remember balanced bites, then we can have deficiencies of essential nutrients. So if you're not doing a good job of looking at what you're eating during the eating windows, then that sets you up for nutritional deficiency. So one of the arguments against fasting is people say, well, just eat nutrient dense foods all the time, and then you don't have to worry about fasting. Okay? So nutritional deficiencies, that's one of the things where we can fall short with fasting. Another one is disordered eating. Now this one I'm going to push myself in there, because I was talking to somebody about this just either was it today or yesterday. And here's what happens to me sometimes during fasting. And you may recognize this. So I do a 72-hour fast once a week. And so I start the fast on Tuesdays. That's usually the plan. And I've done that successfully, other than when I plan to do it differently. I start the fast on Tuesday. So by Wednesday, I'm 24 hours in, which is what we're doing now. And then on Thursday, I'm 48 hours. And then on Friday, I break the fast at 72 hours. Or if we go extended beyond that, I think we've done a 96 and 106 hour fast. Okay? Well, so I start the fast on Tuesday, and I'm going through the fast. And I'm going to tell you, during the fast, usually it's not a problem. The only problem for me during the fast, as I think Gians was saying, is up here. And what happens is I see other people around me, and I want to have the food that they're eating. Not because my body is saying it, just because I remember what it tasted like, and everybody's sitting around eating, so I want to be part of the group, okay? So here's what happens to me. So I break the fast at the end of my 72 hours, and you see me here often where I'm breaking the fast with salads or bone broth or some other thing that we've chosen here in this space. Well, in my mind, I know I'm getting ready to start a fast in another 3 days. And so my brain says to me, hey, you got to eat all the stuff that you like during these 3 days before you get back to the fast. Because during the fast, you can't eat it. So that's that scarcity mentality, right? So if I'm not careful, even though I break the fast well, I do, a good job of breaking the fast. I eat, nutrient dense. I don't have a lot of high carbs. I don't have a lot of processed. If I'm not careful, that thought process in my mind pushes me to go and eat stuff that not that I am depriving myself, but I've made a choice that I'm not going to eat. Like what? Like Cadbury chocolate or ice cream. Actually, I can't tell you the last time I had ice cream. But you get the idea. And so because of that scarcity mentality, I am prone, if I'm not careful, to go and overeat and eat stuff that I would not normally eat because I want to get it all before my fasting starts again. And then, in preparing for the fast, getting ready for the fast, like this week it was a challenge for me because I usually try to start my fast after lunch on Tuesday. So by lunchtime today, I would have been 24 hours. And by the time we did our show, I would have been, 30 hours maybe? But yesterday, it was a challenge because I kept thinking about the stuff that I wanted to eat that were here in the refrigerator that I wasn't going to get to eat when I started the fast. And so for people who've had challenges with eating disorder in the past, or people who are not being careful with their thought process during the fast, and they're not in connection with community and connection with their healthcare provider, they can begin having disordered eating. And that disordered eating can show up as binging and purging, or binging and stress, binging and worry, binging and guilt, right? So all of those can cause problems, right? So fasting can trigger unhealthy eating behaviors in people who are susceptible, who are not in community, who are not making sure they're connected with their healthcare providers. Okay. Next thing is certain medical conditions, and we talked about this with our diabetics. So let's talk about diabetes in general. So individuals who have diabetes, if they're not careful, they can have low blood sugars. Because the whole idea behind fasting is to lower the insulin, and we lower the insulin by lowering the sugar. If we lower the sugar, right, if you're on medication, then for sure that can cause low blood sugars. So one of the most important things during fasting is to make sure that we are in connection with our healthcare providers, particularly if we're on medications, so that we can adjust those medications, right? So diabetes, low blood sugars, a big deal. People who have type 1 diabetes, and I'm going to say it here, right? So we're talking about type 2 diabetes, but let me make a plug for type 1 diabetes. It is not that you cannot fast. It is that you have to be careful as you're fasting. One of the concepts with type 1 diabetes is that when we are fasting, if you're doing the extended fasting, you can go into ketosis, which is what we say we want. We want keto, people are on ketogenic diets and so forth. But for type 1 diabetes, we don't know at what point that person switches over into ketoacidosis. Right? So we want to be careful. So monitoring is very important. For type 1 diabetes, as I mentioned before, as the blood sugars go down, then the insulin requirement goes down as well. But a type 1 diabetes requires insulin to survive. So that if they're not careful, then if they lower their insulin too much, then they can also get into trouble with in terms of diabetic ketoacidosis. Okay, pregnant women and children are not recommended to fast. So we're talking about medical conditions now, right? So if you are going to fast, if you're one of those groups, you need to be talking to a healthcare provider, right? So we're not going to even make an exception here in this space. If you are pregnant, if you are a child, you need to be in connection with a healthcare provider so that you can be directed in what you can do in your particular state, in your particular condition. Okay? So make sure you're doing that. And then, of course, we mentioned people who already have eating disorders, then they want to make sure that they're in connection with community and with healthcare providers as well. All right? So that's medical conditions. Then the other concern is that fasting dysregulates our metabolism. Fasting dysregulates our metabolism. And this goes back to this idea of slowing the metabolism and having huge fluctuations in our weight because of fasting. Those concerns are valid concerns. Let me say that. Some of the concern, though, is not warranted for fasting because, as I mentioned before, when we're fasting, because we're not simply decreasing calories, because we're not just calorie restricting, we are not falling into that space where the metabolism slows down. So we're not getting this roller coaster of our metabolism, so we're not dysregulating it. Okay? In terms of the changes in weight, one of the things to understand is during the first several hours of fasting, you will lose water weight. And you may have heard me say in one of our shows that I anticipate for people who are fasting that they will lose anywhere from zero point 0.6 to 1.2 pounds per day of fasting. That's beyond that first 18 to 24 hours, right? First 18 to 24 hours, they're going to lose water weight, yes. But beyond that, if people are doing other fasts, as a matter of fact, you can begin calculating it. And I play that game with myself. And I'm like, okay, this is day number 2, so I should be down 1.2 pounds. And I'm aiming for the 1.2. I'm not aiming for 0.6. I know, I'm overachiever. And if I'm like 0.8 down, I'm like, man, what did I do? Right? Did I drink more? Did I drink too much water? Or whatever it is. Right? So when you're in that space, you're losing water weight. When you start eating again, remember the liver has to replenish the glycogen. And for every gram of glycogen that goes into the liver that it stores 3 grams of water. So for every gram, it stores 3 grams of water. So a lot of times people, if they're not careful when they're eating those high carb foods when they break the fast, the liver really just sucks that up. And when it sucks a gram up, it sucks 3 grams of water. 1 gram, 3 gram, 1 gram, 3 grams. So you can get a big change in weight in those initial days if you're not careful. Okay? And then going back to the study that was done with the heart, one of the places that people talk about is, this can be strenuous on the heart. When they looked at the study, a lot of the people that were in the study were people that were super obese. Well, I shouldn't say super obese, but they had a high BMI. They were men who already had some other condition, right, that predisposed them to having heart disease and heart problems. And so the conclusion to the study, or the thought behind the study, and it was a paper that was presented, I think it was an abstract, was that more studies need to be done. And the recommendation was not, hey, all of a sudden everybody stopped doing their fasting. That was not the recommendation. The recommendation was that we need to look at the people who were in the study and evaluate what was going on, because there are other factors that were prevalent with the people that were in the study that can predispose them to the heart condition that are not directly related to fasting. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So that is the concept of the benefits. Those are some of the drawbacks of fasting. Some of the things that you need to consider. Now, other ancillary things, right? And I did a show where we talked about gas, right? So when you're fasting, if you're not careful, you can become very gaseous, and if that's the case, you need to take care of that. You can have constipation, because as people are not eating, sometimes they don't drink as much, and when you're not eating, the bowels don't move as well, and so constipation can become an issue. I'll tell you, that's one that I struggle with, right? That I have to be very conscious of. If we're not paying attention, we can become dehydrated, right? So another drawback or danger in fasting if we're not careful. Right, so all of those are ancillary things. Bad breath, right? Because once again, if you're not eating, then the GI tract is not moving, and so you got to be very careful with your oral hygiene, or that can be a problem as well. Okay. Hydration. All right. So what are some recommendations? What are some recommendations for fasting, for safe fasting? And some of these you guys have heard before, but we're going to say them again, because I want us, as we are using fasting, and before I get into recommendations, let me say this. Fasting is a tool. It is one tool. Fasting is in our bag of tools. We can stick our hand in the bag and we can pull out several tools that we can use. We're going to come and we're going to talk about balanced bites, which we talked about before, right? So fasting is a tool. So what does that mean? That means I use the tool when I need it. I have to learn how to use the tool and apply the tool so that I can be successful. All right? So if you're considering fasting, if you're in this space where we fast, and I recommend fasting to you, right? Number one, you want to make sure that you are consulting a healthcare provider, particularly if you have any of the illnesses, diseases that we talked about. You want to make sure that you are in community, like this community. That's the first thing. Don't just all of a sudden plan to do it by yourself. Be in community so that you can bounce ideas, you can see what other people are doing, you can have conversations, you can share with them what's happening with you, and they can be there to support you, right? So be in community. Number two, stay hydrated. Ensure that you're having adequate water, adequate fluids, adequate drinking, right? Electrolytes, huge. And I always pick on Jennifer. I think I saw Jennifer out there. Jennifer has shared with us some of her not oral, but her hydration products. I lost the word there for a minute. All right? So hydration, electrolytes. Next, make sure that you are monitoring and paying attention to your body. Things like dizziness, fatigue, lightheadedness, discomfort. If those things are happening, we need to look to see what may be happening, what may be going on that we need to adjust. Maybe we need to interrupt the fast and come back at it at another time. Okay? So don't just plow through because you say, okay, I'm supposed to be fasting. Listen to your body and let the body dictate and let the body tell you what needs to happen. Okay? And then you want to do a gradual introduction. My recommendation for everyone who is able to fast, other than those people we talked about, anyone who's able to fast, my recommendation is that you work your way up to one 24-hour period once a week. That's where to start. But you're starting where you are. You're starting, if you right now can only fast 8 hours, then start at 8 hours, then make it 9, then make it 10, then make it 11 and 12 and 13 and 14 and 15 and 16 and 17 and 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 hours. Work your way to that. Start small and move in that direction. We want to do things that are sustainable for the long term. Any of us can do anything for short term. If I pay you enough, I can probably get you to do something for a week or a month. It's kind of like when you go visit someone or somebody comes to visit you and they're on their best behavior for those first 2 weeks when they come to see you. And then after 2 weeks, it wears off. Why? Because we could do anything for a couple weeks. That's not what we're about. We are here for long-term benefit. We're here to say, okay, what are we going to do down the road? Tomorrow, the next day, the year after that, the year after that, so that we are continuing to be successful in our metabolic space. Okay? And then just a thought. So fasting can offer health benefits when practiced responsibly. However, it's not suitable for everyone, as we've mentioned. It's crucial to make sure that you are making informed decisions, consult your healthcare provider before making significant changes. Remember, the goal is to enhance your health and well-being and to remain safe. Not just to do something. We are working on creating a process that is sustainable over the long haul. Stay informed, stay healthy as we live our limitless life. Awesome. All right. So let's see. And I saw a bunch of folks come in, and let's see. Gion says my ketone she thinks is going to be 1.8. Autumn, hello, Dr. Wood and hi, Wood Gang. Gion says I love Wood Gang. Steve says hello, AJ. Autumn says 1.6. So I think we got a 0.8, we got a 1.8, we got a 1.6. Okay, so somebody keep track of those for me. Autumn says, I mean Dr. Wood Gang. Hi, Gion and Steve. Autumn says, I've been watching fasting videos on YouTube almost nonstop since I can't leave the house. Things have changed a lot over the past 5 to 10 years when it comes to fasting. Yeah, fasting has had basically an overhaul. Right, a lot of different thoughts and processes that are being touted now. Autumn says Dr. Fung used to have his patients fast for 30 days at a time. He now speaks more of intermittent fasting, such as 18-6. Yeah, so things have changed, and it is a matter of refinement and matter of can we get the benefit? And one of the questions people ask is, can we get the same benefits from a 24-hour fast as we get a 72-hour fast? Okay, and you get benefits. Not everybody needs to do a 72-hour fast. One of the reasons I do a 72-hour fast is because if you guys recall, I had significant metabolic dysfunction, and so I said I need to do this, and I need to do it now, and I need to do something that's going to get me there. And the other reason I do a 72-hour fast is it allows us to have conversations about what goes on in fasting, and you can see what happens in fasting. It's not okay, let's think about it, let's talk about it, let's philosophize about it. You get to see it right here. Okay, and we can talk about how blood sugars change when you get sick. We can talk about how blood sugars change when it's your birthday and you ate the birthday cake. How when you go on vacation, what do you do when you need to adjust your fasting schedule? Like I'm going to be doing here soon because I've got some things coming up, and so I'm going to be starting my fasting early. I think are we doing that next week? One of these weeks, we're going to be starting our fast early so that we will do instead of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll do a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday fast, right? Because we're adjusting based on scheduling. Because remember, it's a tool, and we use the tool as we see fit, as we need to. Dr. Wood, I love that T-shirt you were wearing. Do you sell merch? So, Autumn, that's a great question. Someone asked me that because we play our videos in the office, and someone asked me about the Limitless Living T-shirt. Currently, there is not merch, but it's something that we're thinking about. Keep an eye out, and you guys encourage me to be thinking about that. But yeah, same thing for our mugs and so forth. One of the things that I want to do is at some point we may do a giveaway where we give away some of this stuff to some of you. We're trying to figure out how we're going to do that. But great question. I think Dr. T-shirt is amazing as well. You remember this T-shirt is our Triple E formula for success, right? So we educate, we empower, and we encourage. So that's what this is. This is the new branded version of it. If you recall, this is what it looked like before. Okay. And so we've updated that. Put that back there. There we go. Come on. Yeah, so we've updated that to this version. All right. Let's see. Autumn says, I need a Dr. Wood Gang coffee mug. Okay, Autumn, you're pushing that. I'm gonna put that Dr. Wood Gang. Jennifer, how do y'all? Hey, Jennifer, late to the party. Glad that you were here, Jennifer. Autumn saying hello. Hi, Jennifer. Cornelia says I'm 2 weeks into my new job and someone quit without notice. Some of the work is now my responsibility. This is a major mental trigger for me. I felt too distracted to fast. Yeah, one of the big places, and we've said that I think several times tonight on the show. One of the big things that happens is that once the brain is involved, then the fasting can become a challenge. And so, as we have talked about in the past, and as we will continue to talk about, one of the best things that we can do is work on our stress management techniques, our problem solving techniques, our organizational techniques. Now, these are all tools. Okay, I keep throwing that word. So the organization is not the end all, right? It's not the goal, but the organization helps us to deal with the situation so that it doesn't trigger us. The stress management is not the end all and be all, but it is a tool that we use to deal with the situation so that the situation doesn't trigger us, so that we don't eat, so that we don't go down that path. Okay? So Cornelia, thank you for throwing that out there, and our thoughts go out with you. This is a great. Let me do a plug. Let me do a plug right here. This is a great opportunity to say get into the group, right? So get into the group, and this is a great place to have community so that you can share that, so that other people can support you. And if you've not logged into the group yet, make sure that you do that so that we can begin working to communicate, to support, and to enhance what we are doing together, right? The Dr. Woode gang group. Did I say it right? Autumn says, Dr. Woode, I believe that our bodies take care of our nutrition during prolonged fasting of a week or longer by utilizing our own fat stores. Do you agree that these fat stores provide nutrition? Yes, they do. So our bodies, so the average person has, I think this, I should say thing, the statistic is about 100,000 calories stored up. I want you to think about that number. The average person has about 100,000 calories stored up in their body. And so when we are fasting, which is why sometimes it surprises me, but doesn't surprise me when people say, I can't fast because I'm going to be hungry. Remember what true hunger is. True hunger is a physiologic need for energy and for nutrition. So if I have in my body stored up 100,000 calories, then I really am not physiologically hungry. What I am psychologically hungry. That's an emotional issue. But yes, to answer your question, Autumn, I do believe that the body provides nutrition during the times when we're fasting. Yes. And it's burning that, which is why we have the weight loss and the ketosis and so forth. Gion says, I'm scared of my mind, which makes me just eat without hunger. Yeah, so once again, that's that psychological hunger that we talk about. And it is the thing. It is the place where most of us, when it comes to emotional eating and stress eating and so forth, it's the place that we have difficulty, because it's a mind thing. Even as I fast, okay? Remember what I said. I'm not physically hungry. But when I walk through my office and it's lunchtime and I walk by the break room and I see my team that's in there and they're using the microwave and they may have gone out and gotten stuff, my brain says to me, oh, it would be nice to have some of that. And I've got to actually leave. Right? They all go into all go into our conference room and they watch movies. And I don't go in there for lots of reasons. One of the reasons is because I want to give them their space away from me. So, that's their lunch break. But food is there. Okay? Food is there. So it makes us eat. Let's see. Autumn says, that sounds like a struggle for sure, Cornelia, but fasting might provide you with a sense of control. Autumn, I'm going to give you a hand clap for that. And the reason I'm giving you a hand clap for that is because I think often when we go into a fast, and the reason I love fasts is because when I'm in a fast, it is a time when I feel like I have control. I feel like and the reasons I fast, and I'm continuing to fast, is because for the first time, I feel like I have a tool that is in my control. Okay, I have gone through recovery programs. I'm in recovery right now, and that is an amazing tool. When I'm fasting during those 72 hours, then the food noise goes away. Other than, like I mentioned, those times when I'm dealing with the social part of it. Okay. So yes, when we're fasting, it is something that gives us a sense of control. So that may be a great place, Cornelia, as Autumn pointed out, to say, okay, is it possible for me to push into the fast? Because I have control at that place. Gion says, I have eating disorder. Many of us, yes, that is a place for a lot of us, Gion. And there are a lot of programs that are out there. Often I would direct my patients in the office to recovery programs because I say to them, we can't get control of blood sugars until we first are dealing with the recovery part of this, right? Because often we spend our energies fighting the food. We fight the food. I'm not going to eat it. Oh, I'm so bad because I ate it. And we white knuckle it the whole time. And eventually that fails. And when it fails, it goes way off course. And so I say to them, hey, let's deal with this a little bit. We'll talk about what we're going to do to kind of keep you moderated, maintain some reasonable blood sugars, but we've got to deal. We send people to counseling, right? They come to me for diabetes, for management of blood sugar, and I say to them, we can't control your blood sugar until you're in counseling and you're dealing with those issues, because it's not a blood sugar issue. It's a recovery issue. It's a stress issue. It's a depression issue. It's a marital issue. It's a relational issue. So we've got to be able to deal with those if we're going to be successful. Gion says, exact same here, Autumn. Cornelia says, yes, Autumn, I just realized I'm worried I won't do well. Limitless living instructs me to profess I will be successful by giving it all I have, one day at a time. I can live with that. Cornelia! Boom. That's it. Drop the mic right there. Limitless living says we're shooting for progress, not perfection. I can't do it perfectly. I can't do it all. I can't do everything right now, but I'm going to do what I can do, and I'm moving in that direction. Remember, right? Let's see, let me pull this up. So remember, this is what we got. Right? So can you guys see that? Okay, so so remember, we are breaking free from boundaries. We are pursuing our best self, our best health, and our best life goals without being held back by external or internal roadblocks. So not in our mind and not anything that anybody else says to us. Okay, so great that. Thank you, Cornelia. Autumn says, Gion, it is a tough disorder to break out of and an easy one to fall back into. Yes, it is. Cornelia says, I was already on edge being new, and with little prior experience. Thank you all. I feel supported and encouraged to press through. Yes, yes, yes. Know that you are supported. Know that you are encouraged. As a matter of fact, while I do this, let me go ahead and throw into the chat the I'm going to put in the group, in the member area, the link for the Zoom. Let's go ahead and do that. So you can go ahead and start popping in there. And there it is. Okay. All right. So let's see. So Cornelia, so might be also maybe. So Autumn says also Cornelia may think that fasting actually is very good for you, for your brain, and may help you to keep up with the extra workload you have. Might be a good time to impress your new bosses. I like that. Cornelia says, Autumn, thank you. I plan to start tomorrow. I've been mentally struggling with this. Cornelia, let me say to you, start where you are. Okay? So don't push yourself to do a 72, 48, whatever it is, right? Start where you are and say, okay, I'm going to fast. Okay? She says, that's awesome advice. Autumn says, I think you have been presented with the opportunity to show your boss that hiring you was the best move they've ever made. That's right, best move. You're going to be a star. I really believe that. Autumn says, Cornelia says, Autumn, I accept the challenge. Thank you again. You're welcome, Cornelia. Autumn, I really need to work on hydration. Yep, we all need to work on hydration. I hate water. Sound childish. Hey, Cornelia, Autumn, put the water in the freezer. Take your cup, put the water in the freezer on the bottle, and just as it starts to get cold enough where you start to see crystals, then drink it. It's an amazing sensation, right? So a lot of people who don't like water, they like the feel, they like the sensation of that. That may help you. Okay. Autumn says, sustaining a healthy fasting and eating lifestyle is where I fall short. Okay, so I love these comments. I love these comments. I'm looking through. I have abundant calories in my body, but my mental trigger, my brain triggers my eating. That is true. Same here. Autumn says, when I see food, I'm feared I will break my fast. Always, yeah. So food is a big one. I went to the grocery store today. On the way home to pick something up for my son. We're doing some stuff in his room, and I just had to get out of there. I went to Walmart, so I just had to. I grabbed. I was supposed to get some other things, but I just grabbed that and just put it and went, checked it out, and left because I know myself. Okay. Autumn. So great information. Julia, Women Beyond Fitness. Hey, thank you for coming through. Thank you for being in this space with us. Autumn says, I have two modes, fasting and binging. I have to work with that. And it is the space that many of us, Autumn, I want you to listen to the words I'm using. It is the space that many of us find ourselves. So this is not a you, it is us as a community. And I'm putting myself in that community. Okay? All right. Autumn, my husband bought me a 96-ounce jug of to remind me to drink water. Visually helps me. If you'd like to try it also, my goal is to sustain the fast as well. We will do it. Yeah. So guys, once again, hop into the group, support each other. That's a great place to be. Gian says, Cornelia, you have a great husband who gave a water bottle. I envy you. Autumn, let's make it together. Gian saying, that sounds like excellent idea, Cornelia. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Gian. He's very supportive of me, especially after he has seen the results. Awesome, awesome. Man, I love this. This is the space that I want us to be in. Remember that the triple E formula for success, right? That's what's here. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the shows and the blogs and the podcasts and all that. We empower with the tools that we're learning, understanding fasting, right? If you've not joined our 100-day walk in the morning, make sure you're doing that. That's another tool. All the different components that we're doing here, fasting, balanced bites, emotional intelligence, how to create a meal, how to shop, which we'll be doing, right? So all those are tools. They are not the ultimate. They are not the result, or they're not the goal. Those are tools that we're using to set ourselves up for metabolic success and to reverse diabetes. Okay? And we encourage with the community. And I can't plug the community over and over and over. This conversation that we've been having here tonight is great, and I would love to see the support that comes from this as we are working together, right? As we set ourselves up for better and better and better and better and better. Talking about the brain, talking about mentation, one of the things that we've got to deal with is that we worry, we struggle, we stress, we're depressed, we're anxious over lots of things that happen in our space. And once again, I put myself in that category. Because if I'm not careful, I can have disordered eating, I can have disordered fasting, I can have binging because of the things that I'm thinking about. And remember, 91.4, that's the number. 91.4 of the things that we worry about never come true. 91.4 of the things that we stress about, 91.4% of the things that we are anxious about, 91.4% of the things that we pour our energies into never happen. And that 91.4 pushes lots of our buttons. And so we get triggered. And what do? When we get triggered, we buffer. And for a lot of us, the thing that we do when we buffer is we eat. We go out and we eat, and we surround ourselves with those things that make us feel better, those things that ease our thoughts, those things that are our friend, those things that were there, that have been there, that are causing us other issues, and we still do it because it feels good. It tastes good. Habits, emotions, access, and taste. Remember, that's the heat model. We eat because of habits, the routines that we're in. We eat because of emotions. We eat because of access, because things are just around us, and we eat because of taste. But 91.4% of the things that we worry about never come true. And we are living limitless lives. Let's go back to this one. We're living limitless lives. We are using the us that we created, the us that we're developing, the us that we are growing, that we are improving, to move beyond what we thought possible. Limitless living says that there's nothing outside of me, there's nothing inside of me that's going to prevent me from doing what I need to do to set myself up for metabolic success and to reverse my diabetes, to improve my health, to lose weight, to improve my blood pressure, my cholesterol, my fatty liver, my polycystic ovarian syndrome. There's nothing inside of me, nothing outside of me that's going to prevent me from doing that. Right? So we are breaking free. We're breaking free from boundaries. We are presenting our best self, our best health, and our best life. We're breaking free. So limitless living. So I'm very excited that we're here for all of you. that we're able to be in this space, that we can learn together, that we can share together, that we can support each other. Make sure you join us tomorrow for our check-in again. And then on Friday, we will do our review and another check-in. If you've not done so, go ahead and make sure that you get over to the YouTube channel and go through the list. Point it to people, right? There are over 1 billion people on the planet with diabetes and pre-diabetes. That's not even to mention the people who have other metabolic diseases, right? So help them, let them know that there is a place where they can go, where they can find information about being in this space and setting themselves up for success. Okay. And then on not Monday, but Saturday, we will have our video from the vault again. And then on Sunday morning at 6 a.m., we'll have This Week in Review. So make sure that you join us for that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining. Thank you for coming out for all of our community members. And we're gonna do a shout out. I think we'll do that. We'll do it tomorrow. I was waiting for another group of folks to come in to do a shout out for our members who have joined, but we'll do that tomorrow on our show. So make sure that you are here. If you are a current member, join us tomorrow. We'll do a shout out there. And if you're thinking about becoming a member, this is a great time to be there as well, because you get to be a part of this amazing community that we are growing and that you can be involved in. Okay, let me just say that and stop. Okay, all right. Let's see. Gian says, see you tomorrow. And for everybody, remember, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, we're breaking through. We're breaking free from those boundaries. We're presenting our best self, our best health, and our best life goals without roadblocks, because we're living a limitless life. Thank you, everybody. Good night. We'll see you tomorrow.